Which big leap India took in Ladakh? Why is everyone talking about Nyoma Airbase? Why and how Nyoma Airbase changes India's game against China? Barely 30 kilometers from LAC, India has activated one of the highest operational bases in the world. And this is not about infrastructure, it is about a strategy. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh and today we are going to discuss Nyoma Airbase. Why it has come up at this particular time, what does it mean, and what needs to be understood by the operationalization of this particular airbase. So let us begin with talking about the Nyoma Airbase itself. If we talk about Nyoma region, we have to understand that it lies in the Leh district of the Union Territory of Ladakh, and as we talk about this particular airbase, the most significant part, as I said, it is one of the highest operational air bases in the world because it lies above the height of 13,000 feet. Now when we are talking about this specific location, you can see it marked here. This is the Nyoma airfield and this has been operationalized as a full airbase as of now. Now if you can see the given red line at this point of time, this is the line of actual control and the distance between Nyoma Airbase and LAC remains only 30 kilometers, which is a critical distance for India. We will be understanding in detail about this furthermore. But another key point about this particular region is that the terrain here is absolutely tough and difficult to manage. Reason being, you get to see high altitude. I have already told you it is above 13,000 feet. There is extremely low pressure, thin air is present, extreme weathers are seen, and the infrastructure in this region is absolutely limited. That is why we get to see that the logistics as well as operations in these regions are very difficult to carry out, and any forward landing grounds in this region are of great significance. So in this context, Nyoma Airbase becoming operational eases out the logistics and operation part given in the extreme condition this region lies. Apart from this, the main thing that should be a question here is that why exactly Nyoma Airbase has been built now. Historically, if you see the Nyoma airfield region, it was just a advanced landing ground, which is ALG, and as it was just a landing ground, it had limited fighter and air base capacity. However, after the tensions between India and China and especially the standoff of 2020, we got to see that our infrastructure and logistic has some serious loopholes and that needs to be addressed. That gap needs to be filled, and that is when India decided to accelerate and focus on especially the border infrastructure, be it roads, be it tunnels, be it ALGs or the forward bases. And Nyoma is part of this whole border infrastructure push that is coming around India. And the decision to upgrade Nyoma to a 2.7 kilometer airbase, furthermore with hangars, ATC, crash base, full fighter operations was part all of this. And the whole budget allocation for just this was approximately 230 crores in rupees. This is where we get to see the context that what made this kickoff, this border infrastructure push came through this, and under this Nyoma Airbase came up. Now the next thing that we need to understand here is that what has changed for Nyoma here. That advanced landing ground, what has exactly changed? So this advanced landing ground now has got a proper runway with a length of 2.7 kilometers where it can easily facilitate because of rigid pavement, and it can have fighter jets, transports as well as helicopters. Now when we are talking about altitude, because it is at a difficult altitude more than 13,000 feet, This is where we get to see Nyoma Airbase has been made befitting for all high altitude operations as well. And the capabilities have been enhanced in such a manner so that there can be rapid deployment, there can be forward logistics, and especially quicker reaction time when we need it in this particular region. And that is why we get to see not just the runway but the capabilities, but also more infrastructure, as I just mentioned, the ATC complex, the hangars, then we have crash bays, accommodation, and especially the hardened surfaces to facilitate these capabilities. Now the question that should come into your mind, that what will be the consequences or what will this do for India? So to understand that, let us move ahead and look into that why this base is important, what will it deliver. The first thing this base brings in for us is the fact that it will reduce the reaction time. With fighter jets, with transportation very close to our own frontier, India will be all time ready to respond and respond in the fastest manner possible for India as of now. Another thing that we get to see, this reduced reaction time and presence of an infrastructure close to LAC will lead to deterrence effect. What do I mean by that? A forward airhead close to LAC basically will make the adversary understand that there stands a force, and to take away that force or to shed it away, there will be a huge cost of coercion which will be on the adversary. So that impact will also be created by Nyoma. Furthermore, it will facilitate in surveillance as well as ISTAR. For example, when we are talking about better integration in terms of air assets or unmanned aerial vehicles or radars, in this region we will be able to see better integration here, and which will facilitate all of these at once. Furthermore, infrastructure, when we are talking about Nyoma Airbase, as I said initially, you don't have to just see it as an infrastructure, you have to see it as a strategy. It was in this exactly context, because if you talk about China, China has been coming up with air bases left, right and center in the Tibetan area near the Pangong Lake. I have covered it in detail. You can go watch that video. I have covered it last week only, and this infrastructure stands in competition with that. That's why we get a level playing field. India stands equivalent to China. So if China is coming up with infrastructure which will definitely facilitate them with reduced reaction time, deterrence effect, and also surveillance, India wants to stand at par. We are equivalent, we are equally ready if anything goes wrong at all. And another important factor that comes in here is the logistics and sustainment. So when we are talking about high altitude areas, airlift is often the only viable rapid option. That means that is the only option that can get things done at a very fast pace, because roads, transportation and other means are very limited. So in this context, this particular base will enhance the movability, will enhance the access as well. Now that we have understood that this base matters so much, it is also important to understand that this is not the end of the road. Yes, it is an achievement, it needs to be counted in, but there are limitations as well which need to be understood to go beyond this. For example, if we talk about the terrain that we mentioned, a big issue is the weather and seasonality. Snow is there, freezing takes place, temperatures dip down, and limited flying window will be available for the utilization of airbase. Furthermore, because of this weather and seasonality and also the altitude, the performance will be affected. So it will reduce the lifts, increase the runway length that would be required. It would need the aircraft to reduce the load. All of these are going to affect the performance that we are expecting. Furthermore, in terms of supply chain and logistics, the forward base that we are talking about, that would still need regular supply, be it of fuel, be it of spares, maintenance at high altitude. For example, if we are talking about, if you remember, I showed you in the first map itself that it is very close to LAC, and you must have seen it is equally close to Siachen Glacier. So when we are talking about forward bases where the supplies of fuel, food, spares, maintenance are required regularly, and if it is not functional during extreme weather, that also creates a problem. So that also needs to be addressed well in time. Another important constraint that needs to be understood, yes, we are happy about the fact that we have operationalized that airbase, but the operationalization of that airbase comes with the cost and also human presence, which will require sustainability, because the cost of operations will go up, the acclimatization for the people who will be going there would be required, and there will be a regular maintenance burden which was not present up and until now. And another huge challenge and also a limitation, that yes, in terms of infrastructure competition, we seem to be at par with China, but this could be also a point that leads to escalation. Because whenever we have seen movement or provocation, especially around forward bases, they lead to more tensions, they lead to further diplomatic as well as military responses, and this all requires proper management in itself. Now in the end, I will be moving on to discuss that what are the implications and how we are looking towards policy linkages in this context. The first thing is obviously the India-China strategic balance. Yes, Nyoma Airbase strengthens India's north frontier posture, especially when we are talking about the broader Himalayan context. So if you talk about Himalayas, which are stretching all across northern India, in this particular context, one of the highest operational air bases will definitely strengthen India's posture, and not just for China, but also for Pakistan. When we talk about two fronts, this airbase gives us the readiness at both of them, because it is, yes, it seems like it is oriented towards China border, but it will automatically enhance India's overall defense calculus, which we are keeping in mind for Pakistan as well. Other than that, the domestic policy, for example, the push for border, road and infrastructure, shows that government has a clear focus to bring in the policies to enhance access to remote areas, to provide better security, and also it also directly links it to Make it India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. And as an auxiliary advantage of this base comes the Arctic as well as Himalayan research and the climate dimension in this very scenario, because all these high altitude bases, they have the advantage of scientific and logistic research which can be used. So this is another impact that India might utilize in the coming times. Now that was all from my side. If you want to add in more dimensions, you can let me know in the comment section. I will be leaving you with a practice question here. You can put down your answers in the comment section. I'll reveal the answer to this question in my next video. Now I'll be showing you the answer to the yesterday's question. The correct answer here is B, and that was all for today. Thank you so much.